Is this on? So hi, everybody. We've been taking this time before services to give you some verbal announcements about things that are coming up. We're trying to share communication every way we can, right? So this is one way, and I'm Judy Hart. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. I want to offer a special welcome to those of you who are visiting for the first time. I'm scanning, yes. I hope that you'll join us for coffee after the service and maybe even stay for the town hall this afternoon. We have a town hall at 11:15. So here's our announcements. The hospitality training has been rescheduled for the last Saturday of May. And yeah, that is the Saturday of the Memorial Day weekend, but it was the only open Saturday in May. So Liz worked hard to reschedule that, and hopefully you'll all come to, this training is great for new people, also a refresher for older members. For members who've been here for a while and maybe did it before. We'll call it that. That one stop me. We need you to help by being trained to be an usher, greeter, and coffee maker. What's really fun about that is, you know, when you don't know how to do anything and you're learning for the first time, it's a joy to say, oh, now I know where everything is in this building, and get to know each other better. That's really good. Second announcement, today and next Sunday after the service, we're holding town halls. This is leading up to the spring congregational meeting on May 21st, where members will vote for 3 new board members, a new program council chair, share the plate recipients, and the 8th principal, which is the focus of today's service. So last but not least, the day is almost here. The Nehemiah Assembly for Justice in Action is on May 4th at the Lancaster County Event Center on 84th Street. The doors open at 6 o'clock. The event starts at 6:30. I know there's a little confusion about tickets, right? Tickets will just get you in the door faster because they're trying to register everybody who comes into the door for that event. So if you have a ticket, you'll just get in the door faster. You don't pay for the ticket. It's just a way for us to what's the word? To say it again? Register, to know who's there. I'll do it that way. So I've got some tickets. I'll meet people out at the sign by the doors to the playground after if anybody wants a ticket. yeah, you'll soon receive the May newsletter in your inbox. Check it out to learn all the things that are going on in our church. And I keep making contact with our Melody Vaccaro, who, yeah. We're shouting out to you, Melody Vaccaro. Thanks for standing up on all of our behalfs and the legislature. So everybody take a deep breath. We'll start the service in a minute. Talk among yourselves.
Okay. Yeah, I can't see anything. Okay. I love that. Only you're supposed to ring around it so it gets the singing bowl, but I'm not very good at that. Good morning. I'm Marcia Cedardahl. I'm going to read the Central Task of Religious Community by Reverend Mark Morrison Reed. The central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all. There is a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice. It is the church that assures us that we are not struggling for justice on our own, but as members of a larger community. The religious community is essential, for alone our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen, and our strength too limited to do all that must be done. Together, our vision widens and our strength is renewed.
Emily Cameron Chatil, The Chalice Lighting, Prayer for Living in Tension by Reverend Joseph M. Cherry. If we have any hope of transforming the world and changing ourselves, we must be bold enough to step into discomfort, brave enough to be clumsy there, loving enough to forgive ourselves and others. May we, as a people of faith, be granted the strength to be so bold, so brave, and so loving. Well,
Are designed to be ape-proof, I think.
thank you so much, so kind.
Use the candle, yeah.
Yeah, he did it first time. Great. Thank you. Set it here. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Church of Lincoln. I'm Mary Kay Stillwell, a worship associate here at our church. Oh, talk right into the, but it is on, okay. Good morning once again, and welcome to the Unitarian Church of Lincoln. I'm Mary Kay Stillwell, a worship associate here at our church. Worship leaders today include members of our beloved Conversations team, Emily Cameron Chatil, Marcia Cedar-Dahl, Evelyn Weymouth, Elle Stratman, Chelsea Krafka, Jean Helms, and Judy Hart. Reverend Oscar Sinclair, our settled minister, is on sabbatical, and he'll return to the pulpit in July. Over the last several years, the way we have met has changed. But no matter whether in person, on Zoom, or live stream, or some other way of being we can't yet imagine, excuse me, worship together is a chance to deepen our connection with the sources of meaning in our lives and to proclaim who we are and what we're about. Together, we throw open the doors of the congregation and proclaim the radical love and welcome that it's at the heart of our faith. The Unitarian Church of Lincoln aspires to be a loving community, uniting reason with spiritual exploration in order to transform ourselves, our community, and our world. This is at the heart of our covenant that we pass each time we enter and exit the church to remind us of what we're about. Ours is a big vision, and we know that creating a loving community begins with welcome. So whether this is your first time, your 500th time, if you've come hopeful or heartbroken, whether in person or watching live stream, whatever your age, gender, skin color, whomever you love, you are welcome here. Let us join together in love. So let's pause, take a breath or two, and begin. And our first hymn this morning is Love Makes a Bridge, number 325, and Evelyn will lead us in the first 3 verses.
This is one we don't know very well, so Bill's going to play it all the way through. And then you will all sing loud, okay, so that I sound better. I am not Julie. Oh, yes, please stand. Love makes a bridge from heart to heart and hand to hand. Love finds a way when laws are blind and free.
wonderful hymn that is. Maybe we should sing that one more often. Thanks, Evelyn, for leading us on there. Good morning, friends. Over the last few months, there's been a concerted effort here at our church to educate ourselves about racism and white supremacy. For many of us, this deeply personal journey began with a course called Beloved Conversations. Can everybody in the room that went through that series of classes raise your hand? So there were more than 50 people in our congregation that did the Within class during the pandemic. Yes, way back when. More than 50 of our church members have participated in this educational deep dive into personal and systemic changes in ourselves and in our church systems. At the January 15th Sunday service, which is the other service that the Beloved Conversations team led, we challenged the congregation to commit to doing the work of anti-racism by publicly adopting the 8th principle. And that would be added to the 7 principles that we already embrace. Originally presented in the 1997 General Assembly, how long ago is that? Can anybody do that quick math? 26 years ago. The 8th principle was introduced at the General Assembly. This principle came from a belief that we needed something to renew our commitment to this work of anti-racism, to hold ourselves accountable, and to fulfill the potential of our existing principles. We asked those present at the January 15th service if they had any questions or concerns about the 8th principle. And was anybody here? Do you remember writing a question down on the index cards? Well, we did. It's a good Unitarian thing to do. The questions were written on index cards, and we collected them. And we're going to address some of those unanswered questions today during this service. So we really took those questions to heart, and we used them to create programming over the last months since January. We've raised awareness through sermons, field trips, TED Talks, small group discussions, films, forums, and a fact sheet focusing on the 8th principle. We have some extra fact sheets that we can give you at the end of the service. We can read it? Maybe not. Through all these resources, we gained a better understanding. Oh, was that John? Yes. I'll read it for you. We'll read it in the gallery together. Will that be helpful? Thank you, sir. Through all these resources, we gained a better understanding of personal and systemic racism and white privilege. If you still have questions about the 8th principle or anything else about the Unitarian Church, you'll have an opportunity to ask them at today's town hall meeting following this service. Town halls are organized gatherings where questions can be raised and discussed in preparation for our spring congregational meeting, which will be held on Sunday, May 21st. The second town hall is next Sunday, May 7th, following the service. At this congregational meeting, we'll be voting for 3 new trustees, a new program council chair, Share the Plate community partners, and the adoption of the 8th principle. Later in this service, you'll hear from Evelyn Weymouth and Emily Cameron Shatil, who have offered to share stories from their own personal journeys that offer a valuable window into how privilege operates in our society and how oppression occurs. So let's begin with a January 15th question that at first seemed like a statement.
Question 1. This is the first time I can recall that my place of sanctuary is evaluating and applying our words and actions to our principles. This seemingly simple method is truly major.
It may seem like it's the first time that we're applying our consideration of the 8th principle. However, it's really a continuation of work begun years ago. One of Reverend Oscar Sinclair's first sermons 5 years ago spoke to anti-racist work and built on the teach-in and other earlier activities by Gretchen Woods, our interim minister. Through programs such as Beloved Conversations, we, as members of a predominantly white congregation, have become significantly more aware of racist attitudes that continue to inform our lives today, personally, congregationally, and within our community. What has become clearer over time is that anti-racist work and the dismantling of white supremacy is faith formation work. Our Share the Plate and social justice programs have become more intentional, and the 2022 Summer Indigenous Programming raised our consciousness about the peoples who once lived here and those who are our neighbors today. Our land acknowledgement is an outcome of that awareness and learning.
There was another question submitted at the January 15th service that affects the Story for All Ages, which I often do. The request was, I'd like to see the children's storytime readers sit at the children's level and not stand over them. So I'd like to respond to this question by saying it's been really quite intentional. This is called our Time for All Ages, not just a time for children. So the story is for everyone. I'm very grateful to the multiple people of many phases in life who have approached me over the years and told me that they appreciate the story which I choose for the service, that it resonates with adults as well. Storytelling is for everyone. Additionally, we sometimes have activities up at the front of the sanctuary, and I apologize that I didn't specifically invite adults. Last week we had slime up here, which is incredibly fun, but at any point in time, adults are welcome to play with the activities that we set up here as well. The children were really having a blast last week, although I'm not quite sure we would do that activity again. It was rather loud. But we do have some back in the RGL wing. You're welcome to come play at any time. So with that, I would like to invite if anyone wants to come forward for this.
Or tasks groups. The membership umbrella works to welcome all who walk through our doors and offer resources for spiritual growth and learning. The LGBTQA Welcoming Committee's mission is to facilitate inclusion and speak up about the concerns of LGBTQA people at every level of congregational life. The Memorial Receptions Committee hosts receptions in the gallery after memorials and celebrations of life to honor the lives of those we have lost. Caring Connections has two groups within it. Card senders send cards to celebrate church members' joys and to support church members in illness and in other difficulties. Friendly Faces is a program that connects with church members by visiting, calling, and sending notes, matching those who wish to visit someone with those who wish to be visited. Ushers and Greeters. While primarily staff-maintained currently, ushers and greeters fall within the congregation cluster and are the first line of friendliness on Sunday morning, our first chance to be welcoming. All these committees and groups could benefit from additional people willing to participate in our community life by joining or helping with those groups. I have the contact information for all the leaders here, and I would be glad to share them with you. I will be in the gallery right after the service and before the town hall. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share a bit about the congregation cluster connections.
Thank you, Kathy. If you haven't noticed already, each month we're going to highlight one of the clusters of the Program Council to raise awareness about what the cluster is and what's a part of that to help people understand more about our organizational system. So back to the original program. Each week we take a collection up to support the work of this church and our partners in the community. We do this because just as we grow from our participation in this community, we all give back through our time, talent, and treasure.
I invite the ushers to come forward to take up the collection in the sanctuary. And if you're online, you can give to us today by text giving UC Lincoln and the amount to 73256. I suppose if you're in here, you can do that as well. That's UC Lincoln and the amount to 73256. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Thank you. Question 2. Is this 8th principle simply a way to soothe our guilty conscience? Marcia?
The 8th principle is focused on the future, offering us an opportunity to change ourselves and to work toward changing our institutions. It asks us to accept the challenge of awareness of racial injustices and speak out against them. We need only feel guilty if we perpetuate the system. Although we are not called to feel guilty for the racism of our ancestors or the establishment of systems of oppression, we are called to action, to engage in anti-racist work, and to dismantle those systems now. We have no further to look than our own mission statement. We are people of open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands who show up.
Question 3. Every time I hear about the 8th principle, it seems like people are bracing for battle. I'm confused at what is so controversial about this.
Maybe because as white people, we lived a long time with privilege and haven't been aware of the racism all around us or the impact that white supremacy has had on our lives. White men especially can sometimes feel it is directly against them because they have traditionally held the most power in our society. But it is directed to all of us. We're all at different stages of becoming aware and seeing our participation in the system. And at almost every stage, we're going to feel uncomfortable. We may even feel hurt. Here's where the battle takes place. It takes hard work to discover our blind spots and to relinquish our power.
The eighth principle asks us to dismantle other oppressions as well as racism. For example, the phone directory at one of my first jobs had all female attorneys listed by their first names and the male attorneys listed by their last names. I told my boss this was unacceptable. He had the directory changed. Then I went to my first intergovernmental meeting where I addressed by my first name while the male attorneys were all addressed by their last names. After the meeting, I again told my boss that this was unacceptable. This took longer to change as the men were unaware this was a problem. About 8 months later, I was asked to take a recently hired male attorney to a problem-solving session. Upon arrival, I introduced our new employee. The coordinator said, "Great, I see you brought someone to solve the problems." He then proceeded to direct all the questions to the new employee as if I was invisible. I pointed this out to the new employee during the break, and he later realized what I said was correct. After that, he redirected questions to female attorneys when this phenomena happened again. Now join us in hymn 1017, Building a New Way. Rise if you are able.
Very short intro.
I'm Evelyn Weymouth, and as promised earlier, I would like to share with you my experiences from my own personal journey with regards to how privilege operates and oppressions occur. Hopefully, we'll all sing along, right? Hopefully, Through this, you will see why I believe we need to add the eighth principle. For me, dismantling white supremacy is related to three themes: awareness, prejudice, and privilege. All three themes exist in our culture, or as some would say, the water we swim in. And like fish, we are often not aware of the water that surrounds us. It just is. Unless you are willing to keep open minds, think about the wider implications of your experience, and to face hard, uncomfortable truths. First theme, awareness. If your mind is open to exploring implications, you expand your awareness. Case in point, from my own personal experience. One day, amongst other activities, I needed to go to the bank. The other activities of the day required that I wear my grubbies: olive green Army surplus pants, a multicolored t-shirt, and a plaid flannel shirt, all clean with no rips or holes. So I'm standing at the counter, writing out my withdrawal slip, and the security guard walks over and places himself where he knows I can see him, and he stares at me. My spidey senses are tingling. What do? Do I ignore him? Do I look at him and smile and say hi? Or run out the door yelling, "Help!" I decide on the first choice. Finish writing my check, I go to the teller and proceed to transact. The guard moves to another place in my sight line and again stares at me. My insides are battling between laughing out loud and being scared. Two thoughts are uppermost in, I finished my business. I thought that was weird. I finished my business, walk out of the bank, and breathe a huge sigh of relief. Two thoughts are uppermost in my mind. One, I will never again go to that bank dressed like this. Two, regardless of how they're dressed, this is what BIPOC people, Black, Indigenous, people of color, experience day in and day out, year after year. Now, some folks might think this is a little odd that I am making a statement about what BIPOC people experience. But this is not an assumption on my part. I know this to be a fact by talking to BIPOC members of my own family, which you'll find out about later, interviews in the media, on television, in print, reading books, and there are many, many, many studies done on microaggressions and how that affects BIPOC people throughout their lives. And what happened to me was a microaggression based on class. And I can change my clothes, but BIPOC people cannot change the color of their skin. My awareness grew that day because of my willingness to consider wider implications. My second theme, prejudice. I feel strongly that we all of us, myself included, carry prejudice within us. It is something that is deeply buried until something happens to expose it. My stepmother, Laura, supported African Americans all her life. She had 2 grandchildren of mixed race whom she loved dearly. In 2016, Laura had a second shoulder replacement. Same shoulder, same summer. I hear you saying, ouch, and was in a lot of pain and on pain drugs. The day she was released from the hospital, which was a Saturday, that's important, I got her settled into the rehab facility and went home. At 10 p.m., I got a call from her. "Are you going to pick me up tomorrow and take me to church?" I wasn't planning on doing that. No, what's going on? I need you to pick me up tomorrow and take me to church. Okay, I'm going to hang up now and come over there and we can discuss this. When I got there, when I got to her room, she told me she was scared and wanted to get out of there. What scared her? A tall, young, male nurse who happened to be African American had come into her room to check on something. She didn't know who it was, and she was afraid. But she wasn't afraid of any of the other nurses who were also people she didn't know. She was afraid because he was male African American. The drugs she was on had dug this up from way deep down in her soul. I have no idea what lies deep in my soul to make me afraid. But this incident has made me aware that there is something there I need to work against, even if I don't always feel it. It is deeply embedded in our institutional water. My last theme, privilege. If you are a person of European descent, white skin, you exist within privilege. This is the water we swim in. It is what we are most unaware of. However, even my family has experienced its effects. My younger brother and his wife have 2 children. Kelsey, who is of European descent, and Mina, who is of Asian Indian descent. Both are very good drivers, but one is stopped many more times than the other one. Figured it out? Mina, Asian Indian descent, never goes anywhere without a second article of identification so she can prove she is an American citizen. Few of us with white skin have to do that. Our UU First Principle says that all humans have inherent worth and dignity, but how do we as this community, ensure that worth and dignity is acknowledged? The 8th principle will be our touchstone that will help us to keep awareness of the embedded prejudice and privilege at the forefront of our work to dismantle institutional white supremacy. Thank you. We're going to hear from Elizabeth. Thanks.
One more question. Is our goal to convert people? Thank you, Evelyn. We'd have to do the whole service over again. One of our questions, is our goal to convert people from other cultural traditions to Unitarian Universalism? The short answer is no. But being a Unitarian, we have a long answer too. We're doing this work because it's the right thing to do. We do it because, as one of our beloved conversations facilitators, D.C. Beale, wrote recently, love calls us to do good in the world. But what can I do? Where can I begin? Are questions we also frequently hear. Begin by recognizing privilege and prejudice in your life. Evelyn and Emily have offered some good examples. We'll have a handout for you probably next week. Can I fix it? I can fix it, and it lets you go home and think through your life and ask yourselves questions about how it may live in you or live in the community or in the institutions you're part of. Or if you can't wait until next Sunday, you can email me and I'll send it out. Once we're aware that it exists, we can answer that call of love. We began our service with words by Reverend Mark Morrison Reed. The central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all. There is a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice. Alone, our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen, and our strength too limited to do all that must be done. Together, our vision widens and our strength is renewed. Go in love. Now, the town hall will start at 11:15, so you have some time to go out and get a cup of coffee, visit the accommodations, and return to us for the town hall. See you then. Go in peace.